The alien woman became the human man's slave. She couldn't escape her desire. Under the dim hum of the freighter's quantum drive, Elias Core stood at the threshold of the containment sector, one palm flat against the access pad, listening to the hiss of decompression seals. Inside, the alien woman waited. She sat on the edge of a sleek restraint bench, like she was posing for a portrait, silver skin catching every flicker of the emergency strips. Her ears, long, swept back like the fins of some deep ocean creature, tilted toward him as though eavesdropping on the ship's heartbeat. He cleared his throat, trying to sound like a man in control, and not like a lieutenant on his first date with a cosmic riddle. "You can at least say thank you," he said, stepping inside. "I picked the deluxe cell. 5 stars. Room service if you behave." Salira tilted her head. 5 stars. The view from the port slit shows only 1, and it is dying. "Metaphor," he said. "Humans like those." She blinked, eyes a shade too bright to be real. "Your metaphors are inefficient." "Yeah, well, so is your people's invasion strategy." He tapped a panel on his wrist console, pretending to check her vitals, but mostly buying time. The faint scent of ionized air filled the chamber, mingling with something floral from her skin, though he'd bet it was a defense secretion designed to scramble his nervous system. She leaned back, stretching long legs until her boots touched the opposite wall. "You've won, human. So chain me. Question me. Extract your information. Isn't that what you do?" He gave her a crooked smile. "I'm actually thinking of starting a podcast. Alien in my cell. You'd be the first guest." Her ears twitched. "A podcast." "Never mind." He swiped the interface, and the restraints retracted. "I don't like chains. Too much paperwork." "Is that supposed to make me grateful?" "No, it's supposed to make you curious." For a heartbeat she stared at him, and in that stare was both challenge and an odd flicker of amusement. The ship groaned as it skirted the edge of a gravity well, and for a moment both of them rocked slightly, like dancers finding rhythm. Her sensory filaments rose and quivered, sensing the shift before the inertial dampers corrected. "Your vessel is poorly shielded," she said. "Tell that to procurement." He flicked the intercom, muting a burst of static from the bridge. "Coffee, or whatever counts as coffee in your biochemistry." She narrowed her eyes, but nodded once. "If you think I will drink your poisons." "It's freeze-dried diplomacy." He produced a silver sachet from his jacket, tore it open, and poured a glowing liquid into a self-heating cup. It smelled like citrus and ozone. "Okay, not coffee, but it's alien enough to make you feel at home." She sniffed it, her expression skeptical but intrigued. "This beverage hums. Best feature, keep you awake during interrogations." Her lips twitched, almost a smile. "You are not like the others." He shrugged. "Company handbook says I'm supposed to be stern, maybe even cruel. But I figured sarcasm burns fewer calories." "You joke," she said, "but your hands tremble." He looked down, they did. He clenched them into fists. "First time capturing someone who can bend electromagnetic fields with her hair. Cut me some slack." She sipped the glowing drink. "Adequate. Slightly too sweet. That's the sugar of compromise." He leaned against the wall. "So tell me, why'd you risk slipping into our sector? Spy work, sabotage, or just wanted to see how ugly humans really are up close?" "None of those. I was curious." Her ears flattened slightly. "Your broadcasts reached our systems. Your songs, your images of oceans and open skies. I wished to see if you were more than noise." "Most days were mostly noise." He laughed, rubbing the back of his neck. "And now you're stuck with me." "I am not stuck," she said softly. "I am assessing. Assess all you want. We've got a week until rendezvous. Plenty of time for mutual disappointment." She tilted her head again, the movement oddly graceful. "Your arrogance is exhausting. You should see me on karaoke night." He turned to leave, but paused at the door. "Hey, Salira, nobody's going to hurt you on my watch. You've got my word." Her eyes narrowed, as if calibrating the sincerity of his tone. "Why?" "Because someone should start the cycle differently," he said. "Besides, it's in my best interest." You're worth more to command alive than dead. She laughed once, a sharp sound like crystal striking metal. There it is. The chain of value. Yeah, he said. But maybe we can upgrade it. Less chain, more truce. As he left, the door hissed shut, but not before he caught her murmuring something in her own tongue. A string of liquid syllables he couldn't decode, but that lingered in his mind like a melody. The corridor lights dimmed to simulation night, and Elias walked toward the bridge, telling himself he was still in control. Yet the sound of her voice haunted him, tugging at something he couldn't name. Behind the door, Solyra set the cup down and traced a pattern on the wall, her fingers glowing faintly. The pattern pulsed once, embedding itself into the ship's circuitry. She smiled, not entirely without warmth, and whispered, "Assessment ongoing." Then she reclined on the bench, closing her luminous eyes, the faint hum of the freighter merging with the rhythm of her breath. Out in the black between stars, the freighter moved silently, carrying both captor and captive toward an uncertain horizon, and somewhere in its steel heart a quiet spark flickered, something neither could yet define, but which already bent the invisible lines between them. Elias woke to the sound of a distant alarm, not the sharp scream of danger but the low, almost embarrassed tone of a system catching itself making an error. He rolled off the narrow bunk, tugging on his jacket, and barked at the intercom. "Bridge status." "False anomaly," the bridge officer replied. "Environmental controls triggered by something in biocontainment." He groaned, already knowing who the something was. By the time he reached the containment wing, the door was fogged with a faint silver mist. Inside, Solyra stood on the bench, holding a nutrient dispenser upside down like a captured animal she was trying to shake coins from. "Seriously," he said, "that's our breakfast you're hacking." "It is not food," she replied. "It is synthetic sludge. That sludge keeps you alive. That sludge tastes like punished metal." He keyed the override, and the mist cleared. She hopped down gracefully, her long ears flicking with annoyance. "Your machine attempted to poison me with processed algae." "It's a smoothie," he said. "Everyone loves smoothies." She tilted her head. "I will destroy this smoothie." He cracked a smile. "Not before I confiscate it." Later, over a more controlled meal, he had bribed the ship's cookbot to make something closer to alien-friendly protein. They sat across from each other, separated by a field he could deactivate with a flick of his wrist. She ate slowly, eyes darting around the mess hall like she was reading code hidden in the bulkheads. "You have cameras in every corner," she said. "You think I do not notice." "They're for your safety," he said. "And my paperwork." "I see. You fear your superiors more than me." "That's not entirely wrong." She laughed softly, a sound that still hit him like static across a frequency he didn't know he could hear. They passed the next hours in a rhythm of moves and countermoves. She tried to hijack a maintenance drone by whistling in subsonic tones. He countered by switching the drone to a secure channel. She rerouted the ship's announcement system to play alien lullabies during shift change. He countered by piping back Earth pop songs. By the end of the day, the crew was muttering about the weirdest standoff since the Jovian Accords, and even Elias couldn't keep a straight face. "You're going to drive me out of my mind," he said when he caught her splicing wires behind an energy panel. "Then release me and your mind will be safe," she said without looking up. He leaned against the wall. "Where's the fun in that?" Her ears twitched. "You confuse fun with cruelty." "I confuse fun with keeping myself awake during long voyages." By the third day, she seemed to have accepted her captivity as a temporary inconvenience rather than a crisis. She began asking questions about the ship's structure, its propulsion systems, its crew. She watched his hands while he explained, as though memorizing not just the words, but the movement. When he caught her staring, he said, "What? Do I have quantum foam on my face?" "You speak as if machines are companions," she said. "They are. They keep us alive. On my world, machines are never companions. They are children. Children. We teach them to grow and release them into the energy fields. They return when they wish." "Sounds like my college roommates," he said. Her laugh this time was genuine, warm, and it startled him. Later that shift, When the ship entered a nebula dense with bioluminescent particles, the observation deck glowed like the inside of a living organism. Elias found her standing at the viewport, her long ears trembling slightly as if tasting the light. "Pretty, huh?" he said, coming up behind her. "Primitive word," she said. "But yes." He hesitated, then held up his wrist console. "Want to see something?" She eyed him warily. "If it explodes, I will end you." He tapped a command, and the viewport polarized, revealing filaments of the nebula twisting in fractal shapes. She gasped, the first sound of awe he heard from her. "This is the lattice," she whispered. "The old paths. Your ship flies through a sleeping mind." "That's one way to put it," he said. "Our scientists just call it a traffic shortcut." "You are children," she said, echoing her earlier words, but without malice this time. They stood in silence, watching the lattice shimmer. Elias tried not to notice how close her shoulder was to his, or how the faint scent of ozone clung to her hair. "Why do you stay?" she asked suddenly. He blinked. "Where would I go? I'm the officer on duty." "No. Why do you stay in this life?" He looked at her, then back at the fractals. "Maybe I don't know where else to go." She nodded as though she understood. When they finally parted, she turned and said, "Your chains are made of choices, not metal." "Yeah," he said, "but they still chafe." As he walked back toward the bridge, he realized the cat-and-mouse game had shifted. She was no longer only testing his defenses. She was reading him, peeling back layers he didn't know he'd left exposed. And under it all, the jokes and the sabotage and the humming drinks, something else was coalescing, something neither prisoner nor guard could name yet, but which filled the long corridors of the freighter with a pulse like a second heartbeat. In her quarters, Salira traced another pattern on the wall, this one subtler, folding it into the ship's communication loops. She paused, ears twitching, then whispered, "Assessment continuing," and lay down, closing her eyes as the glow from the nebula washed over her. Out beyond the hull, the bioluminescent gas curled around the freighter in spirals, and somewhere in that silent dance, two minds orbited each other, caught between captivity and connection. Each joke a flicker of static across an expanding signal they were only beginning to understand. The alarm started as a faint tremor in the deck, a vibration that worked its way up through Elias's boots before the audio warning even began. He was halfway through a lukewarm breakfast packet when the bridge comm cracked open. "Gravity drift in the corridor network," the officer said. "We're off the NAV line." He tossed the packet into the recycler and ran. By the time he reached the containment section, Salira was already standing at the door, ears angled forward like antennae. "You're steering badly," she said. "Tell that to the cosmic turbulence," he replied. "Or the autopilot." She smirked. "Your autopilot thinks in straight lines. This region does not allow them." "Good to know. Next time I'll install curves." She raised an eyebrow. "You joke while your ship dies." "That's my process," he said, hitting the override. "Come on. I need your help before we both become cosmic graffiti." He led her through the winding maintenance shafts toward the drive core. The air tasted faintly of copper. The lights flickered like they were blinking away a headache. "We're at the edge of the void corridors," he said. "Ancient alien subway system. Congratulations on your first ride." "This place is older than your species," she murmured, fingers brushing the bulkhead as though it could speak. "You should not be here." "Well, I'm here," he said. "And unless you want to test how much vacuum your lungs can take, help me realign the field." In the drive room, conduits pulsed with a dull red glow. The ship's AI flickered on a small screen. "Warning. Quantum slipstream destabilizing." Salira tilted her head. "Your AI sounds nervous." "It's programmed to sound like my aunt," he said. "Adds urgency." She approached the control panel, her long ears twitching as she hummed in low tones. "The field geometry is broken. Your machine cannot correct it." "Then what do you suggest?" She glanced at him. "Let me inside." "Inside the drive core? That's a death wish." "Not if I weave the field around myself. I can feel the fault lines. You cannot." He hesitated, then nodded. "Fine. But if you explode, I'm going to feel terrible." She gave a thin smile. Such comforting leadership. He watched as she slipped her hands into the access slots, her fingers glowing faintly as she merged with the field. Lines of alien script shimmered across the displays. The deck trembled. "What are you doing?" he shouted over the rising hum. "Convincing your primitive engine to dance." "That's not in the manual." "Then your manual is incomplete." He grabbed a handrail as the lights surged from red to gold. Outside the viewport, the stars twisted, the nebula rippling like liquid glass. She cried out, not in pain but in focus, and the hum steadied, then faded. The AI blinked back online. Slipstream stabilized. Trajectory corrected. Elias let out a breath. "You're hired." Solyra pulled her hands free, trembling slightly. "I am not your employee." "Fine. Consultant." Her laugh came out sharp but exhausted. "You would pay me in what?" "Smoothies. Best compensation package in the sector." Later, after the crew returned to normal duties, he found her in the observation deck again, staring at the fractal corridors outside. "You saved the ship," he said. "I saved myself," she replied. "The ship was collateral." "You're welcome anyway," he said, leaning beside her. They stood in silence until he said, "So how's it feel, being a hero?" She shot him a look. "I do not know your word, hero. It's like being the one who didn't let everyone die." "Then it feels functional." He chuckled. "Functional hero. I'll put that on your badge." Her ears twitched. "You joke because you are afraid." "Afraid of what?" "Of what you feel." He opened his mouth, then shut it. "That's a hell of a thing to say to your jailer." "You are no jailer," she said quietly. "You are a man hiding in a uniform." He looked back out at the corridors, the endless shimmering paths carved by some lost race. "And you're a spy who just saved my life. What does that make us?" "Statistically unlikely," she said. He laughed. "That's one way to put it." Later still, as the ship cruised on a corrected course, they sat across from each other in the mess, sharing a packet of something halfway between soup and battery acid. "If we're going to keep doing this," he said, "we need ground rules." "Rule 1, she said, "no algae smoothies." "Rule 2, he said, "no hacking drones while I'm asleep." "Rule 3, she said, "stop calling me consultant." "Fine. Partner." She arched a long ear. "In sabotage or in survival?" "Dealer's choice." She considered, then allowed a small smile. "Partner, then." When he retired to his quarters, he realized the label no longer felt like a joke. Partner. The word lingered in his head like a signal sent across light years, waiting for a reply. And in her cell, if it could still be called that, Solyra traced yet another pattern into the wall, one that looped back into itself like a Mobius strip. "Assessment altering," she whispered. "Trajectory unknown." Beyond the hull, the void corridors unfolded like a living maze, and the freighter glided through them, carrying two beings whose roles were dissolving, their banter a fragile bridge over a deepening chasm of possibility, their shared survival a quiet orbit pulling them ever closer to a point neither command nor homeworld could predict. The call from command arrived as a flicker of encrypted symbols across Elias's console, the kind that carried bad news wrapped in official language. He read it twice, jaw tightening, then turned to find Solyra leaning against the doorway of the bridge, her long ears angled like radar dishes. "They found us," he said. "Your people?" she asked. "And yours. A rescue fleet from your world. They'll intercept in 12 hours. Her face didn't change, but her ears drooped a fraction. "So the experiment ends." He forced a grin. "Experiment? You make it sound like a bad dating app." She almost smiled. "Swipe left, jettison captor." The bridge crew pretended not to hear. Elias locked the message and said, "We need to talk." They went to the observation deck. Outside, the void corridors folded around the ship in dazzling spirals, as if nothing dangerous waited ahead. "You could just hand me over," she said flatly. "Everyone expects you to." "Yeah," he said, "but I've started to enjoy our little sabotage sessions." "Joke all you like," she said. "Your command chain will break you if you disobey." He leaned on the rail. I'm already bent. Might as well snap. She turned toward him, ears flicking. You risk everything for a prisoner? Depends how you define prisoner, he said. You've saved my ship twice. You've taught me more in a week than Command did in a decade. At this point, you're more like my systems upgrade. She raised an eyebrow. Flattery as a strategy. Only when it works. Later, in her quarters, she activated a hidden beacon in her palm, a last resort transmitter. Its light pulsed once. Then she closed her hand around it until it died. She whispered something in her language and looked up to find Elias watching from the doorway. You could run the beacon and be free, he said quietly. I could, she said, but freedom without choosing is just another chain. He blinked. That's unexpectedly poetic. It is a proverb from my world, she said, also used to sell breakfast cereal. He laughed. Figures. The ship's AI interrupted with a chime. Incoming transmission from High Command. Immediate response required. Elias muted it. Later. They sat across from each other at the mess table. He slid a mug toward her. Here. Not coffee. Not poison either. She sniffed it. Smells like melted meteor. Compliment accepted. I am serious, she said. You will lose your rank. I never liked my rank, he said. It keeps me from wearing cool jackets. Her ears quivered in amusement. You defy an interstellar fleet and make jokes about clothing. Gallows humor. Keeps the blood pressure down. When the first blip of her people's ships appeared on the long-range scan, she closed her eyes. They will hail us soon. They will demand my release. You cannot resist. I can stall, he said. I can pretend the comms are down. I can tell them we're lost in a wormhole. That last one is almost true, she said. He grinned. Exactly. Hours passed with both fleets drawing closer. He drafted 3 different surrender messages and deleted them all. She sat beside him, silent except for the occasional flick of her ears. Finally she said, I could sabotage the signal myself. They would not find us until it was too late. He blinked. You do that. She shrugged. If you are my captor, it is in your interest. If you are my partner, it is my choice. He watched her, then nodded. Do it. She closed her eyes, humming low. Somewhere in the bowels of the freighter, a relay burned out, turning the ship's beacon into a faint ghost of itself. She opened her eyes again. Done. He exhaled. Well, that's going to look great on my quarterly report. You realize, she said softly, this makes you an enemy to your own. Guess we'll have to form a club, he said. Membership, too. She smiled faintly. And no algae smoothies at meetings. No algae smoothies ever, he agreed. As the ship drifted deeper into the corridors, the scanners showed the rescue fleet overshooting their position, confused by the false signals. The freighter floated in a pocket of gravitational calm, alone again. She looked at him and said, You could have chosen safety. So could you, he replied. She tilted her head. Then what are we? 2 idiots with bad career prospects, he said. Her laugh startled both of them, bright and unguarded. When they returned to the observation deck, the lattice outside was shifting color, from pale blue to deep violet. She placed a hand against the viewport. The corridors approve, she said. You're kidding. Perhaps. He stared at the fractals and shook his head. We're in over our heads. Better than under your feet, she said. That night, if it could be called night, the ship's corridors felt less like a prison and more like an echo chamber of 2 converging signals. Elias lay awake in his bunk, hearing her words on a loop. Freedom without choosing is just another chain. And in her cabin, Salira whispered into the darkness. Assessment complete. Parameters changed. She did not know what awaited beyond the next corridor, but she knew she would face it beside the man she had once called captor. Their jokes and small rebellions, now the scaffolding of something neither command nor homeworld could dismantle. Outside, the void corridors pulsed like the inside of a living star, folding them deeper into a region where old rules failed and new patterns wrote themselves across the dark. The ship glided deeper into the violet corridors, engines throttled low, both human and alien systems humming in tandem. Elias sat at the console, watching the navigation screen cycle through impossible geometries. Salira stood behind him, long ears flicking to catch harmonics only she could hear. "Congratulations," she said. "We are officially off every chart in your database." "Great," he replied. "We'll have to name things ourselves. I call dibs on Elias Prime." She smirked. "Very humble." "I'm learning from the best," he said. She walked around to face him. "We cannot drift forever." "I know," he said, "but we can pick where to land. There's a cluster ahead. Looks like a hollow node. Outpost or graveyard. Who knows?" "Ancient," she murmured. "Vanished builders. Perhaps they left something for fugitives." "Let's hope it's not a bill," he said. The node unfolded like a knot loosening. At its center hung a structure, a ring of crystal and alloy, big enough to swallow a city. The ship slowed automatically, sensors flickering. "This is the junction," Salira whispered. "The place where paths converge." "Nice of them to set up a welcome mat," Elias said. They docked with a tremor. The AI chimed. "Docking complete. Warning. This facility predates known civilizations." "No kidding," he said. "Keep the engines warm." They stepped into the station. Gravity shifted to a soft pulse, air tasting of ozone and forgotten languages. Panels glowed when Salira touched them, forming patterns in midair. "This place responds to me," she said. "Must be the ears," he said. She shot him a look, but smiled anyway. "It's a resonance interface. Bioelectric signatures open the system." "Translation, you're the key," he said. She nodded. "And you are the luggage. Hey, somebody's got to carry the snacks." They followed the glowing path to a central chamber. A sphere hovered there, spinning slowly, etched with symbols from no known script. Salira placed her palms against it. The sphere pulsed, then split open, revealing a lattice of light. "It's a severance engine," she said softly. "It can undo bonds forged across neural space." Elias blinked. Neural space. She looked at him. The link between captor and captive, between systems of control. He realized what she meant. "You mean?" "Yes," she said. "I can break what your command put between us. You will be free of obligation, and I of you." He tried to joke, but his throat tightened. "Sounds like a terrible business breakup." "Are you afraid?" she asked. "Of losing something I didn't know I needed?" "Yeah." She closed her eyes and sang a low tone. The sphere responded, beams of light weaving around them both. He felt a snap inside his skull. Not pain, but a release, like a deep breath after holding it too long. "It is done," she said, opening her eyes. He blinked. "I don't feel different." "You will," she said. "You no longer command me. I no longer belong to you. We are simply here." He looked at her, then at the sphere. "So now what?" She tilted her head. "Now we choose." They left the chamber and returned to the ship. The corridors of the station shimmered like old memories as they walked. On the bridge, he slumped into the chair and said, "Well, guess I'm officially unemployed." "You are officially alive," she corrected. "Yeah," he said. "And you?" She hesitated. "I set no beacon. My fleet will think me dead or lost. My world will replace me. So we're both jobless," he said. "Good thing this ship has plenty of fuel." She smiled faintly. "What will you do with freedom?" He thought for a moment. "Chart a course no one's drawn before. See if the universe has a sense of humor. And if it does not, then I'll teach it," he said. They launched from the node, engines purring. The corridors ahead twisted but no longer felt threatening, more like a map being redrawn. Elias set a heading at random. "You're smiling," she said. "First time in years," he admitted. "Feels weird." "Freedom tastes like anomalies," she said. "Better than algae smoothies," he replied. They both laughed, and the sound filled the bridge like a new signal. As the ship accelerated, Salira placed a hand on the console. "Wherever we go, you understand this is not captor and captive." "Partners," he said. "Partners," she echoed. Beyond the viewport, the corridors opened into a vast expanse of uncharted space, dotted with stars that flickered like fresh possibilities. He eased the controls forward, the ship responding with a smooth surge. "No turning back?" he asked. "There never was," she said. "Only forward." They sat together in the glow of alien starlight, two exiles remaking their definitions, jokes and fragments of trust their only map. The freighter's engines built to a quiet roar, and the violet corridors gave way to open black dotted with new suns. Elias glanced at her. "Think we'll find a place that feels like home?" "Perhaps," she said. "Or perhaps we will build it." "Building sounds good," he said. "I'm handy with duct tape." She gave him a look that was almost a smile. "I will teach you better materials." He grinned. "Deal." And together they crossed the threshold of the last corridor, leaving behind the labels of captor and captive, of spy and soldier, and entering a region where their story belonged to no one but themselves. The ship's trajectory now as uncharted as the bond they had chosen to form. Somewhere behind them, two fleets searched empty space for ghosts. Somewhere ahead lay a new map waiting for names. And in the quiet of the bridge, the sound of their laughter mixed with the hum of the engines, a signal traveling outward, proof that even in the coldest parts of space, something unexpected could take root and grow. The end.